Well, hello, and I bet you thought I'd forgotten about Isaiah. Must be several weeks since I did one of the Isaiah ones. But no, I've not forgotten about it. Just been distracted by many other things. So, where had we got to? Well, we had got to Isaiah 51 verses 1 to 3, where God has told his people to look to Abraham and Sarah. Then he says this to them: Listen to me, my people. Hear me, my nation. Instruction will go out from me. My justice will become a light to the nations. If we just stop and just look at that verse for a moment, notice how personal it is. It will go out from me. And of course, instruction has gone out from Jesus. And it has affected so many nations in the world. In particular in the West. Western culture, Western prosperity, Western justice has been immensely influenced and founded upon its Christian foundations. That doesn't mean everything was perfect, far from it. But many of the things which are good about the West and which we value, you have found their roots in Jesus Christ. Now, in recent years, we've been increasingly rejecting all that heritage. And we are inheriting the consequences of that. And Jesus goes on, or God goes on, my righteousness draws near speedily. My salvation is on the way. And my arm will bring justice to the nations. The islands will look to me and wait in hope for my arm. Lift up your eyes to the heavens, look at the earth beneath. The heavens will vanish like smoke, the earth will wear out like a garment, and its inhabitants die like flies. But my salvation will last forever. My righteousness will never fail. Now, with passages like these, you can argue whether it is just being used just as a phrase when it talks about cosmic changes, like the heavens vanishing and like with smoke and all the rest of it, whether it's just using poetic language and it's just representing God's justice coming, or whether that some physical things will actually happen. I don't think we need to get too tied up with these, whether not that's the case. There may well be actual cosmic events take place. The key thing is the change in justice. And God here, and the key thing God's saying here is that look at all the worldly kingdoms you see around you. No matter how powerful they might look at the moment, they will vanish. The only thing that will last forever is God's salvation. That's why, no matter how difficult things might get, we need to hold on to that salvation, the salvation that is in Jesus Christ, because it is eternal and nothing else is. Now, look at these last two verses we're going to look at. Hear me, you who know what is right, you people who have taken my instruction to heart. Do not fear the reproach of mere mortals, or be terrified of their insults. For the moth will eat them up like a garment, the worm will devour them like wool. But my righteousness will last forever, my salvation through all generations. We live in a time when in the West it is becoming increasingly uncomfortable or less comfortable to be a Christian. Compared to many in the nations in the world, any difficulties we experience as a Christian are pretty minimal. There's one or two people who have lost jobs because they've held to God's truth. And in that situation, obviously for those individuals, it is very serious. But on the whole, it is a generalization. We have things easy in this country. It is, I often get the Open Doors prayer letter or prayer diary. And actually, sometimes it's quite heartening. It is both appalling, to read what some Christians have to go through. But in a sense, it's heartening that despite all these things happening to them, they maintain their faith in Jesus. They still consider Jesus to be the best thing there is. But anyway, so things are becoming less comfortable in this country, in the West in general. And if you hold to Christian views, biblical views on sexuality, on gender, you are likely to be insulted. And say in some cases people do actually lose their jobs. And we need to remember what it says here. Do not fear the reproach of mere mortals, the people who criticize or mock, or worse. They're just men and women. That's all they are. They're just mere mortals. It says, don't be terrified of their insults. God's righteousness and God's salvation are eternal. The present views in society are passing fads. That's all they are. They will vanish like smoke. But God's salvation and righteousness last forever. So we need to build ourselves up, and we need to resolve to hold to God's ways. Whatever else might be happening in the world, whatever else the world might say about us. Amen.